Welcome to Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations about midlife without the hype, without diagnosis, and without pressure. If you're somewhere between 35 and 55 years old and quietly navigating questions about your energy, your identity, your work, your faith, your relationships, or your health, you're not alone. Midlife can often look stable on the outside and feel unsettled underneath. Life After 40 conversations exist to do one thing well: to give adults in midlife the language, the clarity, and calm perspective for a season that can often feel confusing, lonely, or silently overwhelming. This show exists to help you feel seen, steady, and less alone as you navigate the second half of life. Now, mind you, this is not a self help program. It's not a medical show, and it's not a motivational pep rally. What this is a meaning making space. Each episode is a grounded conversation with myself, alongside leaders, caregivers, entrepreneurs, pastors, parents, professionals, and thoughtful human beings who are living through midlife in real time, just like you and me. We reflect on lived experience without issuing prescriptions with peer pressure. Because I believe in this deeply. Midlife is worth living and worth living well. And living it well doesn't start with pressure, it starts with perspective. So if you ever thought to yourself, why does this season feel different for me? Or why am I rethinking things that used to feel settled before? You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm grateful you're here. So, with that, let's begin today's conversation. Today's guest is Timothy Ward. He's an expert health and longevity coach and the newest author of his book, The Goat Within. Basically, a battle cry for anyone over the age of 45 years old who refuses to fade into frailty, sickness, and weakness, essentially serving as a blueprint for living strong with power, vitality, and unstoppable momentum. This isn't just his story, it's proof that your past does not have to define your future. Strength and knowledge does. Tim, welcome to Life After 40 Conversations.
I'm excited about this show, and it's terrific to be here for sure.
Absolutely, sir. Happy to have you here. So, I shared a little bit of your introduction with the audience here and love to get started by getting something from your own words here. Before the titles and the resume, who is Tim in this season of life?
Mm. Well, I am a 61-year-old that acts and feels like he's 30 years old, and that's sort of by design. I feel like my past really is helping to define my midlife and, in my future life. And I often think about some of the things in my past, not to dwell on them, but sort of to reflect on them. And I'm happily married. I've got two fantastic kids in their early 20s, mid 20s now, two boys. I live up on the coast of New Hampshire, right on the ocean. Beautiful, beautiful state up here. Winter times are getting a little tough, but other than that, I'm very grateful, very happy where I am right now. Of course, I always want to improve multiple things in my life, like most of us. So, but I feel blessed that I have ended up where I am, and really what I mean by that is, I've been on a few different journeys in my life, big, very deep, thoughtful journeys, sometimes intentional, sometimes unintentional. And I think everybody, has those episodes in their life. And what I am grateful for is, my health, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my boys. It's work, obviously. It's work to keep things intact, but um, um, coming from where I came from as a young, toddler into my teen years and all that stuff was it was not an easy childhood. And a lot of people don't know this about me. They look at the best-selling book and they look at my stuff that I do now and they think, wow, this guy, man, wow, he's really. And just like my pastor says, you never know what's behind a face. You never know, and that really means a lot of things. Mostly it means you have to treat people with grace, kindness, something I didn't always do, stemming from my early years. What people don't know about me is I was a uh, heavily abused kid, in the hospitals, beat up pretty severely for years. My mom was beat up. My older brother was beat up by my father, and I think my level of gratefulness and thankfulness now at my age is, it sounds funny, but I think it stems from those early years of feeling hopeless and feeling, how do I get out of this? I don't want to get beat up again. And I'm talking when I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, right? So I think our past can, really help us. And I think it can help us in a way that, you have to decide, and this is my opinion, and this is what I had to do. I had to decide to cut the chains of my past off. I couldn't
Mhm.
hold on to them because they would always weight me down. And they did for a little while, actually. A lot of anger issues, very hot tempered, all those type of, psychological, you know, quick to argue with somebody and very, very defensive. And that lasted, into my 30s, into my 40s. And my wife really helped me through that at an early age. So, I am somebody that has lived a few different, hardcore stories. And as of today, who I am, I'm very happy with where I am. I'm very thankful for where I am. So, yeah, yeah, we'll dig into some of that stuff, I guess, throughout the show.
Absolutely. And I definitely appreciate it too. It's one of those things that, I was thinking about a conversation I had with somebody earlier, and he was sharing with me the thought of, we always have a choice on how we can look at things,
Mm,
especially when it comes to our past and, whether it's good or bad or hurtful, we have a choice in how we reflect on what's the meaning behind it and how we want to remember it. And so I could definitely appreciate your look at this, Tim, where it's like you're looking at it from a sense of, hey, I understand what happened. I appreciate that I survived it. I'm also grateful as far as how this could have been helpful for me getting to where I'm at now, where there's a number of things that you listed before you're very thankful for as far as your relationship with your wife and your kids and where things are currently for you and at this stage of 61. And that's a great way to look at things.
yeah, it is. You hit it, direct bullseye that, you have a choice. And I think sometimes we may feel like we don't have a choice. And in my opinion, that's not true. You have a choice on how you're going to look at something, how you're going to cope with something. You may not have the answer. A choice isn't really an answer all the time. The choice is a decision to navigate through or around something because you have the light in your heart of knowing I can get through this and I can get this problem solved. Whatever the problem is, there's always a solution. And
Mhm.
I think that's a very healthy way, for me anyway, to think about, um, my current standing. If I have issues I'm dealing with, and we all do, they all come in different forms and different types of issues. But just know that, being honest, being truthful, being direct, staying calm, that's the way I deal with things. And I think that's a strength, that if people have that edge of thinking that way, things will start to dissipate, that you might see as a massive problem on one day, and then they start to dissipate a little bit. You start to get some answers and solutions, and a lot of times with me, I speak. I do event speaking. I'll speak to corporate groups and all that stuff. Um, I talk about, and we may have talked about this before, Philip, but I talk about all of our lives, every single one of us. All of our lives are made up of hundreds and hundreds of stories.
Mhm.
Every one of us, okay? So it could be your love story, your financial story, your parenthood story, your faith story, your career story, your youth story. It's all stories, every single one of us. And, every day we're writing a page in that book, every single
Mhm.
day. And we don't really realize, we don't think about life that way sometimes. But, when I started thinking of that concept, I started to think about, the next question for me was, who is authoring my story?
Mm.
Is it me, or is it outside influences that I can't really control, or is it my anger side of my personality, or my unreasonable side of my personality? Is that who's writing the page in my book today? And, sometimes when I, feel like, oh, man, I'm dealing with this thing, I'll take a deep breath and I'll think about that. I'll say, you know what? I'm going to I'm going to make the decisions of being my author of my story today, my page that I'm writing. And as long as it's based in truth and honesty and courage, right? The courage to do something
Mhm.
that most people might not want to do, avoid something, procrastinate, whatever it is. And we all do those things to certain degrees, right? I like to feel like I can be the author of my own story. And recently, I became baptized about 4 years ago. Um, so I've gone to another level in my current life, that yes, I want to be the author of my own story today, but I've given my story to God. And it's something that is dear to me. And it really took me a lot of years to come to understand Christianity and Jesus Christ and the power of God, right? And I was always mocked it. I always thought it was, give me a break. That's not
Mm.
true. And part of the reason is, I was told as a young kid that it's all fake, it's all phony. Don't believe in the church. Don't believe in. So, it was something for me. It was a real personal journey, getting to that level. So now in my life, yes, I want to be the author of my own story, but I have a deeper meaning now behind my own story. And, of course it has to do with, my newfound faith, as of 4 years ago. And it took me a while. It took me a while to have a journey, a faith journey. And my wife, who's been a, long time Catholic, her mom was, heavily Catholic out of Boston. And, she was so, I call my wife my angel, from my gift from God, my angel, because she has really been, somebody that, was so patient with me, always wanted me to go to church, always wanted me to kind of understand, but she never forced me. She never
Mhm.
forced me, and I look back at it now, and I'm like, you know what a great person. You know, not trying to force feed me Catholicism. And she would, you know, I would do the typical Christmas Eve mass, and I would go to Easter Sunday, you know, service, and I just couldn't understand it. I didn't really, you know, have any. I couldn't identify with it all the way, and all, you know. So about, you know, I'd say probably in my early 50s, I had some wins in business, and you know, I've always been an entrepreneur on my own, doing things, and I've had my losses and my wins, and I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere of my intended destination in my life. This is my early 50s, and you know,
Mhm.
I started thinking about, man, what am I? You know, I'm happy, and I'm this, and I'm that, but I felt like I'm missing something in my personal life, my journey, right?
Mhm.
And I'm a huge sports guy. I love watching, you know, college sports. You know, with my background in exercise sciences, of course, I'm tuned into that stuff, and I see it at a different level than most people see it. But so you know, I'm a big NBA basketball, college basketball guy, and you know, so for you know probably 5, 6, 7 years, I would see athletes, you know, do an interview, post game interview, or and they would always say, you know, I first, you know, I just give all the glory to God. I'm so appreciative of where I'm at, and you know, I always point out Al Horford, you know, is an NBA guy, and he's one of my guys that I love. Al, I just think he's such a. I've always felt like the guy's so calm, so positive, hard worker. Right? He's not like one of these outlandish NBA guys making all this money, and he's got the fancy outfits, and so I always liked that about him. But what I admired most about him was his demeanor. And I would see him, and you know, of course, some you know, NFL guys that would same type of personality, other NBA guys, you know, not a ton of them, but enough. And I started to think, man, what do they have that I don't have? They're so content and grateful, and am I not grateful enough? You know, so I really, it took me a while, but I'm like, I want what they have. They have a serene disposition.
Mhm.
So I was at a service that I go to a church, Christian church down the street from where I live. Great church. We ended up actually going to this church, and my wife was like, you know, she's a Catholic. She's like, oh, you know, the Catholic service on a Christmas Eve was so packed we couldn't get in. It's her
Mhm.
church we would always go to. So I said, hey, all right, we, you know, I could see she was upset, and my little kids, you know, 3, 4, 5 year old, all dressed up, and I said, well, why don't we go to the Bethany Church down the street? You know, a good friend of ours, a local guy that you coached a lot of youth sports with, you know, he said to us a couple of times, oh, Bethany Church is great there. You know, so I said, why don't we go? Why don't we just go there, see if we can get in? And you know, so we went, and she was, you know, reluctant, but she's like, all right, well, you know, I want to be in a service for Christmas Eve, right? And I go into this place. It's pretty big, beautiful church, really friendly people. And, you know, I'm not really used to going to church, you know, so I see a few people I know, and it's probably you know, 1,500 people there that, and it was packed. It's a beautiful place. And they have a live band, and they're playing. And I'm like, wow, this place is pretty cool, man. I like this place, right? And my wife's looking at me, and she didn't want to say it. She's like, I really liked it over there. So next Sunday rolls around, and you know, I told her, I said, you know, I think I want to go and check out the service of this church, right? So she goes, really? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I mean, I kind of want to go back there, you know. You know, we go, and you know, listening. I'm like, well, the pastor, you know, great service. I was like, wow, that was really, I got something out of that. So long story short, we keep going back, and I end up meeting Bruce Boria, who is a phenomenal leader, uh, Dr. Bruce. I end up meeting him, and lo and behold, he's a, you know, ex running back for Penn State University. You know, New York City guy. He works out. He's, you know, into health and fitness and all this stuff. And we hit it off. A quick introduction turned into a 40-minute conversation with him. And I was like, wow, this guy's cool. So one thing led to another. And, we kind of started going to church, going on and on and on, a couple, 2-3 years. And Bruce is up there doing a sermon and he says, hey, we have twice a year, we do baptisms. And, if you want to sign up, we have a group, we have a 3-hour study that talks about what it means. And I'm sitting there with my wife and we're standing up back in one of the pews and, she's just sort of listening along. And I say to her, I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get baptized. She almost fell. She almost fell over. She's like, are you kidding? I said, no, I'm going to do it. And it was like, my kids were like, really, Dad? Wow. So I went through that process and, you got to, remember what I told you, how I grew up, beat up, really rough, anti, church and did all. And so I feel like it's a real personal journey I took, getting to a point where I felt like I was really ready to go into a deeper meaning of my life. And, it was, one of the best decisions I've ever made because it's really brought more calmness and tranquility to me. It's brought, deeper conversations with my wife and I in our relationship and really meaningful, really, really good, meaningful things. So that's something most people don't know about me, that
Mhm.
see me, see my book or I'm on an international, show or I'm on a, small TV show on a news channel. They're interviewing me. And it's nice to be able to chat now about those things rather than all fitness protocols and the science behind longevity. And of course, I love that stuff, but it's nice to be able to. That's what attracted me to the show when you and I first met, Philip. I was like, this will be cool to get into some of these sides that I never really reflect on, publicly with myself. And kudos to you for having me on. I really, really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. That's definitely a blessing to hear your story there.
Mm,
Um, what do you feel like, like you said, it's been 4 years since.
mm.
What do you think has surprised you the most about this new season since 4 years ago?
Um, I think initially there's probably a lot of things I don't even really know how to articulate, but I'm learning. I mean, I'm a little overwhelmed by scripture. I'm trying to learn, and it's there's so much knowledge and information that is so applicable, in our lives. If you open up a little bit and let some of the lessons take hold, I, I think I think probably the biggest thing to this stage, and I'm sure I'll go through, many more levels, is the simplicity of the message. To me, I keep coming back to that. It's a simple message of love and grace
Mhm.
and, honesty and having courage, knowing that there is a right way and a wrong way, and you have a choice to go whatever road you want to go on, and that's a choice God gave us, and we know what God wants for us. I never believed any of it until I started to really understand it more. So I think it's the simplicity. It's a very large study. Of
Mhm.
course, anybody that's read the Bible or read the New Testament and there's so much knowledge. Um, uh, the simplicity of it, staying in the Word, staying in a mode of reading and trying to understand how it applies to your life. So I've actually, got to the point where I try to help people. Like my older brother has had a tough life, and I'm slowly, gradually trying to bring him in and tell him there's a better way. He was an ex-drug addict and all those things. And I'm getting to him. He's starting to say, you know what, you're right. There is a better way. So I like that part of it where I believe there is an answer for everybody. And I think getting into the word of Christ, I think has such a massive meaning if you're open to saying, you know what, I'm going to walk through there, and I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to start to apply it to my life. So simplicity would be my long-winded answer, Philip. It's a simple story that has many levels of complexity if you want to keep digging and really having bigger understanding.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, for some reason, we as humans like to make things more complex than they actually need to be.
Yeah.
And something as simple as that message is really helpful, especially as we get older, because I would like to think the older we get, the more we crave simplicity.
Mm,
Like, we try to use complexity as a way to, you know, esteem ourselves more, or make ourselves look a certain type of way versus just, hey, just hit me with the truth here. Just be straightforward with it, be simple with it,
mm,
and let me understand where to go from there. And I appreciate the story, the backstory, as far as, your wife was someone that was very encouraging, very
mm,
patient, wasn't force feeding you anything, wasn't pressuring you. And that was simple enough with consistency that was helpful for you. And
mm,
now you find yourself essentially paying it forward to somebody else,
mm,
kind of taking what you learned from her and adapting that to someone else that could be in need there, that you could
mm.
be that angel for somebody else.
The connectivity is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
spreads. It is powerful. So I'm thankful for that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when you think about midlife as a whole, what did it force you to stop ignoring, whether spiritually or otherwise? And what changed once you paid more attention to it?
Um, one of the hardest things for me was the idea in teaching of forgiving people. I think it's such a big deal in all of our lives because it's so easy to hold on to things,
Hmm.
especially things that you feel ripped off or you feel somebody did you wrong, and I mean that's life. That's going to happen, and it's going to keep happening every now and then, right? So for me personally, with the way I grew up, I harbored a lot of that intensity, that a lot of that. I'm going to get even. Oh, I don't like the way I was treated. This whole, this whole thing, right? Um, so I think getting honest with myself and saying, you know what, maybe some of the wrong doings from people, maybe they weren't all their fault. Maybe I was a part of that. Maybe I
Hmm.
did something to them that made them react to me in a strong, you know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
said to myself, you know what, even my staunchest opponents and people that really lashed out and you know did things to me, some of it was family that I still have to
Hmm.
deal with today. Instead of getting angry, Philip, instead of harboring anger or resentment, I make a concerted effort to say a little prayer of goodness for that person. Hopefully they get over their issues, because I see that type of the way somebody will hold themselves, and I see them now as, I actually feel sorry for them that they have to be so venomous to people as they once were to me. So I actually forgive. I went through a period where I really thought about it, and I actually forgave my father for all the beatings, and they were bad, some of them. I couldn't see out of my eyes. I got beat up so bad that I had black eyes, and that was a hard thing for me to get over. But once I actually, this is a story that maybe people might appreciate. They may not. I'm not sure, but I actually invited him to lunch. He's still alive. He's in his early
Hmm.
80s, and this is a while back. A few years, 5, 6 years ago, and I sat him down, and he's all standoffish and Mr. Tough Guy and ex-Marine, and one of these guys. And I actually brought up the issue of the past, and I said, I'm not bringing it up to talk about it. with you. I'm simply bringing it up because I'm just forgiving you for all the beatings you gave me. I've let them go. And there's a lot of power in that scenario right there. Um, I didn't know how the reaction was gonna happen, but he got all defensive. What are you talking? Denied everything, and blah 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 blah. And threw his napkin on the table, got up and left. I looked at him and I said, "Listen, you have the right to react any way you want. I'm just letting you know for myself, I'm forgiving you. You take it any way you want." And he ended up storming off. And I speak to him once a year. He's a very angry, bitter, lonely. Got divorced, years ago, and I feel bad for him. He's at the end of his life, and he harbors all this resentment, and just every story is resentment from him. And I truly, truly feel bad, even though I was heavily abused. So I guess the moral of the story is, for me, one of the biggest changes for me was being able to let things go and not have the weight of those issues on me anymore. I feel like it's elevated my life. I don't put energy into that stuff anymore. I put energy into good growth, and it feels like a weight off my shoulders. The way that I can deal and cope with things now. Um, I highly recommend it for people if they're in a situation. It's a nice way to say, you know what, cut the chain off my ankle. I don't need it anymore. So, yeah.
I love it. There's so many gems in what you just shared, Tim, where it's just, I would imagine that's one of the things that a lot of people in midlife try to work through. And
Mm,
that's relationships with people that have had some sort of major impact on them, whether growing up or as they've gotten older. And a lot of those relationships may have some tension in them. Some that have some things kind of swept up under the rug. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to visit it. You don't even want to acknowledge it. And some relationships that have unfinished business.
mm-hmm,
And some of the toughest relationships that you can navigate these troubled waters for, if I say anything else, can be with the people that are closest to us, like our family.
mm-hmm,
And I think that you sharing the power of forgiveness, not so much for the other person, but for you,
mm,
and just witnessing how much of a change that was for you to be able to have enough courage to listen. I have no idea how he's going to respond,
mm-hmm,
how he's going to react, but it's important for me to sit down with him before all is said and done in his life to communicate that with him
yeah,
and say, you know what, whether you want to admit it or not, I forgive you for what happened. And I'm doing this as a way not to shine a light on it and us to analyze it and go
mm-hmm,
back and forth on it. It's more so as a way to help me be able to move forward with you. Because oftentimes with relationships that are broken or that have gotten that sort of tension, you got to find some way to bridge over that troubled water. And
mm-hmm,
oftentimes forgiveness is the way to do it. And, I can only imagine, you know, if you had not been able to do that, if you weren't in a place which may have been credited to 4 years ago, to be able to look at life in that way, where you can be able to forgive others and move lightly rather than bogged down by excess baggage and things that have happened in the past, which has seemed like a recurring theme here. Is just you being able to move on from the past and unshackle yourself
mm.
from what's happened before. What do you think it would have cost you if you didn't have that experience of learning forgiveness and being able to have that encounter with God 4 years ago, if you just kinda kept going the same way you had before meeting him,
Hmm.
what do you think would've happened or what it would've cost you at this point?
I think, when we're in our 40s and 50s, I think it's that you know, middle part of our lives that there's time in there, life is changing in a different way, and it's a great period of our lives to really modify some things. And if I didn't do that, if I didn't, you know, address some of the heavy ball and chains on my my ankles, I knew I could not fly. I could not get to a higher level. It's too much weight on me because I would think about it and just it. So I think I wouldn't have been able to elevate a lot of my relationships
Mhm.
to the level they're at now. Um, I think I'm probably viewed. I know I am by my kids and my wife. They really are like, "Yeah, Dad's so much happier. He's lighter. He doesn't criticize as much. He doesn't, and I think that's a hidden gift of um, maybe my forgiving people has allowed me to have a little bit different, you know, disposition for people that I am close to, I love, and of course my network of friends and society, social people that I hang around with. And instead of carrying a little bit of that negativity or intensity because I had that weight on me,
Mhm.
I think it's gone in the other direction where um, I'm much more happy, positive, lighthearted. I become a magnet as opposed to repelling some people. You know what I mean? You can
Mhm.
feel it. You can feel the magnetism of somebody's personality. And if there's a lot of baggage or negativity, yeah, you can kind of feel that too. And we tend to avoid that. So I think it's an important thing for us, all of us. I know it is for me, is to let that light inside of you shine a little brighter instead of being covered up by baggage or resentment. And that's kind of how I visualize it. And we got this light in our chest. We got this thing.
Mhm.
And show your light, man. Don't cover it up and don't hide it, right?
Mhm.
Let's let it shine. And then I feel like, we're meant to be examples.
Mhm.
You can be a silent example, or you can, be a little bit more of a verbal leader. And I think it's in me, in my DNA, where I like to lead. I like to be that voice, and I like to have that position a little bit more. I feel like that's a little bit of the reason why I'm here. And I mean, I certainly in the whole athletic world and in longevity and health and all that stuff. I mean, I've certainly built that following and that reputation, and I again, I'm so thankful for that whole thing. But I think I think people are more connected than we realize,
Mhm.
and we need to allow connectivity to happen. Doesn't mean you need to be around everybody. It doesn't need, it doesn't mean you need to forgive somebody and then all of a sudden you hang out, you're there, that's not what I mean. I mean, you come to an understanding, you say what you got to say, and, you don't need to become best friends with somebody that you had problems with in the past. I have a younger brother I have two brothers. He is completely opposite. My older brother's just an unbelievable, biggest hearted guy you'd ever meet. He has a lot of issues, but he's genuine. He really, really means well for people. My younger one, extreme narcissism. Um, really, really living a toxic life, and I have a lot of problems. The family has a lot of problems with him, so I dealt with that side of it for years, and you just get to a point, you just throw your hands up like, "This is crazy." So instead of fighting it now, I just sort of unplug and not let anything upset me. It's a we all heard of the bucket you can't control. Why try to control it, right? So
Mhm.
I just make my conditions conducive to my life. And uh, he's a toxic, very tough person, very dishonest. Um, and it's a tough thing if you let it be a tough thing. But I keep everything very short when I see him, which is not often. I'm polite, pleasant, don't get into anything. I just wish him luck. He's one of the ones I pray for. He's one of the ones that he's hurt me and my wife 500 times, many different levels. And we both made a decision. You know what? We're not going to complain. We're not going to badmouth. We're not going to talk. We're going to wish well for him. We're going to wish that he gets over his problems. And that's how I deal with it now. And oh, is it enlightening to be that way? So it's up to him to come around. I can't make him. And you have your constitution of how you handle yourself, and that's what we've come to on that. But we're talking about sometimes people in our family are the toughest ones, right? We're dealing with issues, and we all have it to a degree. But you build your little armor of Christ around you, and it's the way it is, right?
Mhm.
So.
No, I mean, absolutely. I think you really touched on a number of things that are really significant because one of the things I drew from what you just shared, Tim, was, you know, you have a heart for your fellow man, your fellow family member, your brothers, your kids, your wife, your dad, people you come across every day. And I think what I'm seeing is just like I feel like I'm witnessing in real time a breaking of a cycle generationally where the angel you talked about before had such a positive influence for you when you went through your journey. And I'm sure she might have had some moments that she might have thought, okay, I can't get through to him. I don't know if I should keep trying. I don't know if I should let go. I don't know if anything will work. But yet she just kept staying faithful in the process.
Hmm.
And she was surprised that day. And I think for me, just thinking about that, it tells me the importance and the power of perseverance and love and faithfulness there, which now I'm seeing you essentially start to exude for those looking upon you,
Hmm.
notably your kids. They saw the difference,
Oh yeah.
and now you're being like your wife towards others that need a better alternative in
Mm,
life.
mm,
And that sort of paying it forward, almost discipleship like
mm.
nature is really riveting there. Because, you know, like you said, everyone has a story behind the face,
Oh yeah.
some of which we know about, and there's still some elements we don't know about.
Hmm.
Only God knows for sure.
Hmm.
And yet he still loves each one of us. And so, what does that say for us in terms of how patient, long suffering, and enduring, and faithful and
Mm,
perseverant we should be? And I really admire that about you,
mm.
where you're learning that and you're
It,
applying that in that sort.
yeah, it's something that it took me a long time to get to that point, and I will say, I'll just add a little quick snippet here. My two boys, I remember when my first kid was born. I was like, "Phew." Okay, now what? There's no user manual for this. Right?
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, we still laugh about it. Like, she's like, the look on your face. And I said, well, you got to, understand where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a broken family, physical abuse. And I remember, he's 25 now. And I still remember when he was born, I remember in my mind saying to myself, and this wasn't pre-planned or anything, it just happened. I remember saying to myself, I will never, ever hit this kid. I don't care what he does. How could you physically hit this little thing, this little person? And I made an oath to myself right there. I am never going to, as a dad, ever put this kid, of course, my second one as well, Jesse. I'm never going to put them through what I had to go through, because I don't want them to feel that pain and that loneliness and that suffering of getting beat up as a 6 and 7 year old. I mean, beat up. Those are lonely nights, and those are really painful. And so the reason I'm saying this is because I made an oath to really love my kids. My dad has never said that to me. I love you. Great job. It was always the opposite. You're awful. You don't know what you're doing. You're a loser. All that stuff, right? So my kids are my best friends right now, and they really have been through my life. So I feel like it's come full circle for me. The way I hug them, give them a kiss on the forehead. I mean, that never would happen in my family. And my kids were pivotal along with my wife, because I remember being in my late 40s, early 50s, and my kids saying, Dad, you're too hard on people.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you judge? And, Mr. So-and-so, he's really cool. And, you really criticize. And I really took that was heavy for me. I was like, man, look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, God, my kids who I love, and we have a great relationship, that for some reason they have the courage to tell me that.
Mm-hmm.
And it really started to hit me like, man, at so many levels. Like, first of all, I'm so glad they have the guts and the courage to say that to me. That speaks a lot about my relationship with them, right? To be able to say that to somebody
Mm-hmm.
you love, right? Those are hard things. And they said it, and I really took that as, you know what? This is part of my journey before I decided to get baptized, right? And I felt like something was missing in my life, but they were pivotal. My two boys were pivotal. And that only happened, I believe, whether it's true or not, because I was beat up. I wasn't close to I would never say that to him, right? So he missed out on the truth and the honesty from his son, which was me and my brothers, right? But my kids had
Mm-hmm.
the guts and courage to say it to me only because of my relationship to them. And it really made an impact on me in my late 40s and 50s. And it changed me. It made me really think about, I really should listen to those guys. They're right. I am too critical and I am too hard. I'm a very driven person, and it would come out in different aggressive ways. And I really thought long and hard about it. And that, along with my wife being just so patient and loving, she's very stern, but she never forces anything. I owe it to my immediate family, my two sons and my wife. I owe it. They've really helped me. Imagine that. The alpha male of the house, the guy. Imagine that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's my two boys and my wife that really have helped form me, and I let them know that it's a big topic, and it's brought us closer together. It's brought that bond even closer together, and they're like, you know what, my dad's pretty cool. He actually listened to us. We can learn, man. I'm telling you, there's lessons everywhere. And so I wanted to. That was an important thing for me to talk about quickly, about how their influence on me, right? So you got to listen, and you gotta be aware. And I really wasn't in my 20s, 30s, 40s. I was too, my way's the right way, and everybody else can get out of my way. No, no. So there's always a lesson to be had and applied. And We have to invite them in and be, cognizant of that stuff. And it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to work at it and be conscious at it. But those are some of the big changes in my life, in my middle years, and it's made life much more enriching for me. Something I couldn't have imagined 25 years ago. But yeah, I look back and I'm like, I'm a lucky guy at many levels. And I'm glad I had the courage to listen. And I'm thankful for that.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that humility
Mm.
first and foremost, because like I said, what it seemed like that was a departure from what you saw.
Oh, yeah.
And once again, now it's like another repeat of that theme of breaking the cycle and demonstrating to your kids, your sons, like this is what's possible. And now they could take upon that
Mm.
and then pass that on to the next generation, your grandchildren
That's
that
right.
way too.
Yeah.
Um, it's really powerful. And so I think for me, a number of things come up top of mind from what we're talking about thus far, Tim. Love for you to elaborate. You know, along with what we said thus far, are there any beliefs, any habits or rhythms of yours now at this stage of life that have become more non-negotiable?
Mm. Mm. Excellent question. So, we're such habitual people. We form habits, all of us, right? And some of them are great habits, some of them are not so great habits, and we all have them. We all have both sides of the equation. So, some of the things that I like to do and that are non-negotiable for me at my age, I've been very blessed and lucky to be very, very healthy, very athletic. And those things for me are the real roots of my physical freedom. And it's such a big part of my life to be very physically fit. And that's a big statement because it requires a lot of things to be that way. Of course, that's what I do, right, in my longevity practice as a expert coach and in wellness and health and fitness and all that stuff. But I actually live by the rules that I teach people around the world. I build ecosystems for them, and I live in that same ecosystem. So non-negotiable. My wife is, she's my workout partner. She's 63 and she looks like she's 35. She's in unbelievable shape. We don't even think about it because it's a lifestyle. And
Mm-hmm.
I've got a massive background in the entire vertical on it. All the way from nutrition practices to cardiorespiratory, all that stuff, right? So we live by that. It's non-negotiable because I know the outcome, what it means to live healthy and strong. You're more capable. You have more strength physically to endure the winds of aging that it's all hitting us. Um, so I choose to be healthy. I don't choose to go along with the norms of society of aging and nose diving into decay and disrepair. That means loss of freedom.
Mm.
The freedom to keep new tree branches, I call it, growing off your tree of your life. And, I really like to live that way. I like to be an example of that. And so that's a non-negotiable thing for me is my health and well-being is really, really important. And especially at my age, right? I still fight my jujitsu. A little bit of stand-up MMA, not as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
I got a great group of Navy SEAL guys I train with, and SWAT team guys, and all that. But I'm able to still do that. 20 years of that type of training, and I'm on the mat, all sweaty, working out with guys 26 that are 40 pounds heavier than me, just tough guys. But they're like shaking their head. They're like, dude, I don't know how you do it, bro. At 61, you're still banging in here with us. And it's because of my, of course, my fitness habits and my lifestyle habits. So that's non-negotiable. I really enjoy that part of my life, and it's not that I haven't slowed down. I attack it in a little bit different way at my age, right? I don't do the same things I used to do 10, 20, 30 years ago because I've changed a little, and I have to adapt different modalities to staying limber and healthy, and all those things. But so that's a major part of my life, and it's my two boys are like that. They have very busy lives. My older one is a physics dynamo from BU, just an absolute genius. Where he's off on his own. He's built his own company at 25 years old, and he employs his physiology professor from BU. Actually
Hmm.
works for him now, and one of his projects. But they're big time into health and fitness and wellness, which is a choice I really wanted them to make, as opposed to going down the road of a lot of young kids today into vaping and drinking and marijuana. It's just, so I'm so thankful that they're on that track of I call it the roots of your longevity and your performance,
Hmm.
is being healthy and strong. So sorry to ramble on about it, but it is a major part of our life, so that's non-negotiable to us.
Absolutely. No, I definitely appreciate the color on that and the context there, Tim.
Mm, mm,
And so, when you think about where things are now and everything you've survived up to this point, right? Um, what does thriving look like for you now?
wow, what a question. Thriving, I think for me now, or I know, I don't think, I know for me now, is one of my jobs and one of my missions is to pass on wisdom, give wisdom and teach and show people a better way. I think, especially, obviously I work with a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, some people in their 80s, but I have more and more of a focus on a younger generation, 20s, 30s, 40s. I've done a lot of coaching in sports and athletics. It's very dear to my heart when you take that leadership role, that you're teaching more and you're leading more than just how to play basketball or how to play baseball or whatever, right? There's
Mhm.
life lessons in there. And I think the older I get, being able to cope and to um, um, have experiences that you can't possibly have when you're in your 20s and 30s. I have experiences in my 40s and 50s that I feel like it's my job to to help and lead people through the wisdom that I have. And that is a job that I think maybe when I was 20 and 30, people ahead of me that were 20, 30 years older than me, maybe I didn't listen as much as I should have, right?
Mhm.
So I think about that stuff in reverse now, like, I guess there's a way to sort of pass on the leadership and wisdom and help our society become better, through maybe helping a younger generation get a little bit involved in that, and I am, because I'm in the fitness arena, so I see all sorts of people, all different age groups and teams and all that stuff. So I do have that platform, but I think people that are mid 40s, 50s, 60s, I would like for them, because they've been through so much at our age.
Mhm.
Maybe think about that. How do you pass on some of your lessons in a good way, become a mentor to people that are younger than you? It makes the world a better place, if you can do it. And I think if we all, tried to do that more, it all starts with one, right? The power of one. And I think collectively that's a cool thing to be able to do, is to look at it maybe in that context.
Yep. And I think that you're a great example of that, Tim, where being able to share, being able to be open and honest and vulnerable with us, about all that you've been through, and at the same time making a choice to take a different path for the
mm,
better, and being able to share that as an example for people listening and watching us in this conversation is helpful for that,
mm,
to help pass that knowledge across generations. Hopefully even your family can see something like this
mm,
and bear witness to all the growth you've had thus far.
mm.
And so, I really appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
absolutely. And so the thought that goes in my mind here as we start to conclude our conversation here, Tim, is, you know, we've covered a lot. And I'm so thankful we had this conversation. And I'm sure it's very helpful for people listening and watching us at this point. And if there's anyone out there that's listening or watching our conversation right now, and he or she feels like they're silently struggling, drifting, or even burning out in midlife, maybe even going through a tough relationship at home,
Mm,
or revisiting something of the past, but it seems like it's kind of having um, a stronghold on them after 40. What would you want to say to them right now?
mm, mm. I mean, that's a very powerful question. And I know there's different levels of conditions everybody may have, right? But I will say this, the constant in whatever level you're at, and this is important, there is an answer. There is a solution. And sometimes those answers and solutions don't come all at once. They come over time, but just know that there's an answer. You have to think that way. Um, I would say be introspective. Think a little bit about, how would I, what is the outcome I want for this, maybe this situation I'm in or this problem that I'm dealing with. Don't feel so low that there is no answer. There is an answer. I promise you, there is an answer. So, sometimes you have to, sometimes it's a gift because it forces you to really think about how did I get here? What, how do I get out of it? Sometimes the answer, and I talk to my kids about this over the years, listen, if you're having a problem, they certainly seem enormous when a problem emerges right away, especially if you get blindsided. They seem enormous. And, they are some of them. They're, oh, wow, this is a real, real big issue I'm dealing with. Here's how I like to deal with it. I pretend that it's like a 10-pound steak in front of me. And there's no way I am going to eat that steak in one bite. It is not going to happen. So I say, okay, I'm going to eat it bite size. I'm going to start on it and I'm going to deconstruct it bite size. So a lot of times the way to devour that is over time. You're taking bites out of it. You can't do it all at once. So give yourself a little space. This is what I do for myself, right? This is just my opinion. And I like to think of things. I like to try to move the needle in different ways um, to cope with it. Be honest with yourself. What do
Hmm.
you want out of it? And you got to have the courage to have the tough conversations. If a conversation is one of those bite-sized pieces of starting to chip away at it, right? So it takes a lot of courage to deal with things, but you have it in you already. A lot of people don't think they do, but you have it in you. You can do it. It just takes some time. Don't try to do it all at once if it's a big problem. It'll take a little bit of time. You got the power inside of you. A lot of people don't realize they have that, but it's there, and you will tap into it if you're patient and you think about it.
That's sound advice for sure. Thank you, Tim.
Hmm.
I think that this conversation was really grounded, was really enlightening.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard to give another word beyond that outside of enlightening because it does encompass the light in you.
Mm.
Um, I really appreciate that, Tim, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening and watching feels very similar. And
Yeah.
so, as we finish up here, if, for people that are watching and listening to us, they really resonate even more so to your message and your story and why you do what you do now. That want to follow you and your work and where you go from here. Where's the best place
Mm.
for people to connect with you after this?
Yeah, there's a couple places. So, the book I wrote was which took a lot of courage for me. It's the first book I ever wrote. It's a 300 page, a little over 300 pages, but it's more than just fitness. My book, I talk about some of these issues, not a lot, but so it's a lot of people, around the world said, well, your book is not all about fitness sciences and how to do. Wow, this is cool. Some of these things you talk about are really cool. So, Amazon, The Goat Within, it's called. So grateful that it became a bestseller. It's just, I was so thankful. So that's a way that they could tap in and kind of read a little bit about, that journey I've had. And what to do if somebody's seeking out wellness and longevity. But and also my website is a great place. People can email me through there. They can find my social media stuff there. The website is www.lifestrong.net. I'm the
Okay.
founder of lifestrong.net, and I'm starting to incorporate a little bit more into, outside of fitness in my speeches and the stuff that I do. A little bit more of the things we've talked about. And listen, kudos to you again, because I never talk about this stuff on shows. So, great storyline for me to be able to share some of these things that are dear to my heart. They're my story, and they're my chapters and my pages, and they're not all fun and games. Some of them are really tough things. So thank for you for giving me the platform of having a podcast show that I've never talked really about all this stuff. So that was pretty cool for me as well. I'm kind of listening to your questions and saying, wow, okay, those are deep, man. So thanks for pulling out some of that stuff out of me, Philip. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, Tim. My pleasure. And absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim, for being a part of this too. Like I said, this has been a great conversation. And, for everyone listening in, let this be a reminder that, you know, m- midlife is not just a problem to fix. It's a new chapter.
Hmm.
It's new pages for you to write, as Tim alluded to, as far as the story. That you have the choice with the pen in hand, you, not somebody else,
Yeah.
unless you want them to, but hopefully not. But you having the penmanship, the agency, the guidance, even from above, as far as how do you write those next
Mm.
chapters in midlife. And Tim has really shared a lot here that's been really helpful. And if there's something that he said that really resonates with you, take heart to it, reflect on it, see what it clarifies in your heart and your spirit. What does it actually cause you to pay more attention to? And really see, even if it softens your heart a little bit, that could be a good thing.
Hmm.
This world would be a lot better if we had fewer hard hearts and more softer ones of flesh, as they say.
Hmm.
And so, because honestly, that's where real change begins. Not with urgency to act now, but just taking that time for awareness, reflection, introspection, even prayer, and then ask for next steps from there.
Hmm.
And so, as we finish up here, thank you so much, Tim, for being a part of this conversation. For everyone else here watching and listening, I appreciate you. To learn more about Life After 40, you can go to our website at lifeafter40.com. You're also welcome to connect with me at philipblackett.com. And just as a friendly reminder as we close here, midlife is worth living and worth living well. So thank you so much for everyone spending time with us here in this conversation. Thank you, Tim, for being a part. You have been quite a blessing, to say the least. Here, I
Hmm.
appreciate you, brother, on this one.
Thank you.
And for everyone else watching, this has been Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. Take care. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Feel free to share it with someone, and we'll see you in the next conversation. Take
Amen.
care.
Thank you.